Worry. It creeps in quietly, steals your peace, and blinds you from the present moment. You lie awake at night replaying what-ifs, imagining scenarios that may never even happen. The mind becomes a battlefield, thoughts clashing, fear screaming louder than reason. But here's the truth. Worrying is nothing more than rehearsing suffering before it arrives. And most of the time, it never even does. The Stoics, ancient masters of mental strength, discovered a way to live free from the prison of worry. They didn't rely on empty motivation or false optimism. They practiced daily habits that trained the mind to face uncertainty with unshakable calm. Imagine walking into any storm of life, not with panic, but with a quiet inner strength. In this video, you'll discover 8 powerful Stoic habits that will help you silence worry and finally reclaim your peace of mind. The Stoics lived in a world of chaos, wars, plagues, betrayals, and constant uncertainty. Yet they cultivated a way of thinking that allowed them to remain calm even in the darkest times. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus didn't just write lofty philosophy. They gave us practical tools for real life. Tools to overcome fear, handle setbacks, and stop worrying about what's beyond our control. And that's what makes Stoicism timeless. Because no matter how advanced our world has become, worry still rules many of our lives. We worry about money, relationships, health, success, failure, even about worrying itself. But if you adopt the habits the Stoics lived by, you can transform your relationship with fear. You'll learn to separate what's real from what's imagined, what you can control from what you cannot. So let's dive deep into the 8 Stoic habits that will train you to stop worrying in every situation. Habit 1. Focus only on what you can control. At the heart of Stoicism lies a simple yet life-changing truth. Some things are within your control, and others are not. Worry thrives when you blur that line, when you spend your energy obsessing over outcomes you cannot command. Think about it. You can prepare for an exam, but you cannot control the questions. You can give your best in a relationship, but you cannot dictate how the other person feels. You can work hard at your job, but you cannot guarantee promotion or recognition. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. That's not just philosophy, it's freedom. Worry dissolves the moment you stop wasting energy on the uncontrollable. Here's how to practice this habit. Every time you feel worry rising, pause and ask yourself, is this within my control? If the answer is yes, take purposeful action. If the answer is no, release it. Don't feed it. Let it go like dropping a heavy stone you never needed to carry. The Stoics trained themselves to divide life into 2 clear circles. The circle of control, your actions, choices, and mindset. And the circle of concern, outcomes, opinions, the past, and the future. When you keep your attention locked inside your circle of control, you reclaim power. Worry shrinks because your mind is no longer chained to endless what-ifs. Instead, you act where you can, and you accept where you cannot. This doesn't mean passivity. It means focusing your strength where it actually matters. Like a skilled archer, you prepare your aim, draw your bow, and release the arrow with full attention. The target, whether it's hit or missed, is not in your control. What is in your control is the effort, the discipline, the shot. When you master this habit, worry loses its grip. Because you'll finally understand, no storm can disturb the sailor who knows which winds he cannot command. Habit 2. Practice negative visualization. One of the most powerful Stoic tools against worry is something surprisingly counterintuitive. Imagine the worst-case scenario. Seneca called it premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. At first, this might sound like fueling anxiety, but it's the opposite. When you visualize what could go wrong, you rob fear of its mystery. The unknown becomes known, and the imagined monster loses its teeth. Here's how it works. Suppose you're worrying about losing your job. Instead of endlessly replaying vague fears, pause and imagine it fully. What would actually happen? Maybe you'd feel pain, shock, and uncertainty. But then, you'd start planning. Perhaps you'd find another job, maybe learn a new skill, or start something on your own. Suddenly, the fear is no longer infinite, it has boundaries. You see that, even in the worst scenario, life continues. You remain capable. You survive. Marcus Aurelius himself practiced this daily. Each morning, he reminded himself, "Today I will meet interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness." By expecting challenges, he was never crushed by them. Instead, he walked into the day prepared. When you practice negative visualization, you also gain a deeper appreciation for what you already have. Imagine losing your health, your loved ones, your freedom, even just for a moment. Then open your eyes and look at your life again. The very things you took for granted now glow with new meaning. Gratitude replaces worry, because you realize how fragile and precious everything truly is. Here's a simple practice. Each night, write down one thing you fear losing. Picture it gone. Sit with that discomfort. Then remind yourself, it's still here. This flips worry into gratitude, and gratitude is the natural enemy of fear. By rehearsing adversity in your mind, you disarm it in reality. The anxious person dreads loss every second of their life. The Stoic accepts loss, even rehearses it, and in doing so, they are never enslaved by worry. Negative visualization transforms your fear into freedom. Because once you've already faced the worst in your imagination, nothing in reality can ever break you. Habit 3. Live fully in the present moment. Worry is always a thief of time. It drags you into a past you cannot change or pushes you into a future you cannot predict. The Stoics understood that peace can only exist in one place, the present moment. Marcus Aurelius said it best: confine yourself to the present. Simple words, but a radical habit. Think about it. Most of what we worry about never happens. We create imaginary storms, rehearsing suffering that doesn't exist. The past, gone. The future, unwritten. The only thing that is real, the only thing you truly own, is the moment you are living right now. To live stoically is to anchor yourself here. When your mind starts spiraling into what-ifs, bring it back by asking, what is happening now? Notice your breath. Feel your body. Look around. Worry cannot survive when you give your full attention to reality as it is. Epictetus taught that men are disturbed not by things, but by the view which they take of them. Most of your worry doesn't come from reality itself, it comes from the story you attach to it. You fail a test and immediately project a ruined career. You argue with a loved one and imagine the relationship falling apart. But the present moment, it's just one event, one experience, one breath. That's all. Here's how to train this habit. A mindful pause. When worry arises, stop and take 5 deep breaths. Ground yourself. Break tasks down. Instead of obsessing over the future outcome, focus on the next action. Do what's in front of you. A return to the body. Walk, stretch, or simply notice your senses. The body lives in the present, even when the mind runs away. Living in the present isn't about denying the past or ignoring the future. It's about refusing to be enslaved by them. When you master this, worry dissolves because you're no longer living in imaginary timelines. You're living in reality, moment by moment. And here's the beauty. The present is always survivable. It is never as heavy as the weight of an imagined future. Habit 4. Embrace voluntary discomfort. One of the most surprising Stoic habits is the deliberate practice of discomfort. Seneca advised, set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself all the while, is this the condition that I feared? Why? Because worry often grows from fear of loss of comfort, money, health, or status. We become so attached to comfort that the thought of living without it terrifies us. But when you willingly taste discomfort, you break its power over you. Imagine sleeping on the floor for a night, skipping a luxury meal, or going a day without your usual conveniences. At first, it feels uncomfortable, but then you realize you're still alive. You're still capable. You can endure far more than you think. Suddenly, the fear of losing those comforts shrinks. Worry weakens because you've proven to yourself, I can handle this. The Stoics believed that true wealth is not measured by possessions but by resilience. If you can face poverty, illness, or hardship in small, controlled doses, then real-life challenges won't crush you, they'll merely test muscles you've already trained. Modern life has conditioned us to avoid discomfort at all costs. But avoidance breeds fragility, and fragility feeds worry. By practicing voluntary discomfort, you toughen your mind and body. You learn to differentiate between needs and wants. And when you know you can endure life stripped to its essentials, fear loses its grip. Here's a simple exercise. Once a week, practice a Stoic fast, skip a meal, or eat the simplest food you can. Or spend a day with no digital devices, embracing silence instead of noise. Each small act of discomfort builds inner strength. The result: you stop worrying about, what if I lose this? Because deep down, you know, you've already faced it. You've already rehearsed it. And you survived. Voluntary discomfort is not suffering for the sake of suffering. It's training for freedom. The more you practice it, the less the world can scare you, and the less power worry has over your life. Habit 5. Accept fate with a more fatty. The Stoics had a profound way of facing life. Instead of merely tolerating fate, they chose to love it. This idea is captured in 2 Latin words, amor fati, love of fate. It means not just accepting what happens, but embracing it as necessary, as if you had chosen it yourself. Worry arises when we resist reality, when we wish life to be different than it is. We replay the past with, if only, or dread the future with, what if? But Stoicism teaches us, reality is not your enemy. It is your teacher. Every event, good or bad, carries a lesson that shapes you into who you're meant to become. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." To practice amor fati is to become that fire. Whatever life throws at you, loss, rejection, failure, hardship, you don't let it extinguish you. You consume it. You grow from it. You transform it into fuel. Imagine the freedom of living this way. A delayed flight is no longer a disaster. It's time for reflection. A failed project is no longer a crushing blow. It's a lesson for the next attempt. Even heartbreak, while painful, becomes a profound teacher of resilience and self-discovery. This doesn't mean passivity. It doesn't mean you stop trying to shape your life. It means you stop wasting energy on resentment. You meet life as it comes, not as you wish it would be. That shift alone dissolves much of your worry, because worry is resistance, and amor fati is acceptance. Here's how to practice. When something goes wrong, instead of asking, why me? Ask, how can this serve me? Train your mind to see opportunity within adversity. Write it down. Turn every setback into a stepping stone. When you live with amor fati, worry fades, not because life is perfect, but because you no longer demand that it be. You become unshakable, because no matter what happens, you are ready to embrace it, learn from it, and turn it into power. Habit 6. Keep a Stoic journal. Worry thrives in silence, growing louder the longer it stays trapped in your head. The Stoics knew this, which is why they practiced a habit that has survived for centuries. Daily journaling. Marcus Aurelius' Meditations, a book that still guides millions, was nothing more than his private journal. He wrote not for the world, but for himself, to examine his fears, doubts, and choices. Why does journaling matter? Because writing forces clarity. Thoughts that seem overwhelming in your head shrink when you see them on paper. Worry often feels infinite, but when you write it down, you realize it's just words, just sentences, just fears that can be challenged. Here's how to practice the Stoic journal. An evening reflection. Before bed, write about your day. What worried you? How did you respond? Did you live according to your values? This builds self-awareness. A morning preparation. Write about what you might face today. Expect challenges, just as Marcus Aurelius did. By rehearsing difficulties, you'll meet them calmly when they arrive. A reframe in writing. Take a worry and ask, is this within my control? Write 2 columns, control versus not control. This habit alone can cut your worry in half. Seneca once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Journaling exposes the imagination for what it is. You catch yourself exaggerating, predicting, or catastrophizing. And once you see it on the page, you can choose a stoic response instead of surrendering to fear. Another benefit, journaling builds gratitude. Write down what went well, even if small. When you balance your worries with gratitude, you begin to see your life in perspective. You don't need to be a writer. You don't need fancy notebooks. All you need is a pen, paper, and honesty. The Stoic journal is your mental mirror. It reflects your thoughts, shows your flaws, and reminds you of your strengths. With daily practice, worry loses its fog-like power. You gain clarity, direction, and peace. Because once your fears are on paper, they no longer control your mind. They become lessons that guide your growth. Habit 7. Remember the shortness of life, memento mori. If there is one Stoic practice that instantly crushes worry, it is the daily reminder of death, memento mori. Remember you must die. At first, it sounds dark, even depressing. But for the Stoics, it was the ultimate cure for anxiety. Why? Because when you face the truth of mortality, petty worries lose their grip. Think about it. How much of your life is wasted on meaningless fears? What people think of you? Whether you'll succeed or fail in some small task? Whether today goes exactly as planned? But when you remember that life is short, that your days are numbered, you stop wasting time on trivialities. You focus on what truly matters. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." These words weren't meant to scare, but to liberate. If you know that each day could be your last, then every moment becomes infinitely valuable. Here's how to practice. Each morning, pause and reflect. If this were my last day, how would I live it? Would I spend it worrying about rejection? About failure? About things beyond my control? Or would I spend it courageously, gratefully, fully alive? Memento mori doesn't make you reckless, it makes you deliberate. You no longer have the luxury of endless procrastination. You stop postponing joy, stop clinging to fear, stop wasting energy on pointless worry. Because you see that life is too precious, too short, to waste on what doesn't matter. This reflection also softens your relationships. When you remember that loved ones won't be here forever, you stop fighting over little things. You begin to appreciate their presence. Gratitude replaces irritation. And when true hardships come, the reminder of mortality strengthens you. You no longer ask, "Why me?" Instead, you say, "This too is part of life, and I will face it with dignity." Memento mori frees you from worry because it strips away illusion. It reminds you, the clock is ticking. Don't waste your limited time rehearsing imaginary suffering. Live fully, right now. Habit 8. Reframe challenges as opportunities for virtue. The final Stoic habit to defeat worry is a complete shift in perspective. Instead of seeing obstacles as threats, see them as opportunities to practice virtue. Marcus Aurelius captured this beautifully. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Worry thrives when you view problems as enemies, things that exist only to harm you. But the Stoics flipped this mindset. They believed every challenge is a chance to strengthen your character. Insults, a chance to practice patience. Failure, a chance to grow resilience. Loss, a chance to cultivate acceptance. Even illness or hardship becomes a stage to demonstrate courage. Imagine this. You face a difficult boss at work. Worry says, "This will ruin me." Stoicism says, "Here is my chance to train calm, to practice discipline, to build inner strength." Instantly, the weight of worry lightens. The problem is no longer just pain. It has purpose. Epictetus reminded his students, difficulties show a person's character. In a crisis, you return to your principles. Without challenges, virtues remain theoretical. It is only when life tests you that you prove who you really are. Here's how to practice this habit. Each time you feel worry creeping in, reframe the situation with one question: what virtue is this moment asking me to practice? Is it patience, humility, courage, self-control, gratitude? Write it down if you must. By reframing, you shift from victimhood to empowerment. Worry wants you to see yourself as powerless. Reframing reminds you, you are never powerless. You may not control events, but you always control your response. And in that response lies the seed of greatness. When you train this mindset, every challenge becomes a stepping stone. Instead of fearing difficulties, you begin to welcome them, not because they're pleasant, but because they forge you into someone stronger. Reframing is alchemy of the mind. It turns obstacles into opportunities, fear into fuel, and worry into wisdom. With this final Stoic habit, you become untouchable, because nothing that life throws at you can be wasted. Everything becomes a chance to grow. You've just walked through 8 Stoic habits that can silence worry and bring peace into any situation. But here's the truth: knowledge alone changes nothing. The Stoics didn't just read wisdom, they lived it, practiced it daily, until it became part of who they were. And that's the invitation for you today, to not just admire Stoicism, but to embody it. Ask yourself, what would life feel like if worry no longer controlled you? Imagine walking into challenges with calm. Imagine handling rejection without fear. Imagine sleeping at night without a storm of what-ifs in your head. That life is not a fantasy, it's the reward of daily practice. So here's your challenge. Choose one habit from today's video and apply it. Start with the one that speaks to you the most. Maybe you'll practice negative visualization. Maybe you'll begin journaling. Maybe you'll remind yourself each morning, I only control my actions, not outcomes. Whatever it is, make it real today. And remember, this is not about becoming emotionless. Stoicism is not suppression, it is transformation. It's about feeling life deeply, but refusing to be enslaved by fear. It's about turning obstacles into teachers and worry into wisdom. If you commit to this path, step by step, you will notice something extraordinary. You'll stop living in the shadows of fear and start living in the strength of presence. You'll become someone others look to for calm, for stability, for courage. Not because life became easier, but because you became stronger. So I'll leave you with this final Stoic reminder: don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. Don't just agree with these ideas, live them. If you found value in this message, take action now. Subscribe, share this with someone who needs it, and join this journey of living stronger, calmer, and freer. Together, let's build lives not ruled by worry, but guided by wisdom. Because the moment you choose Stoicism, not just as a philosophy, but as a way of life, worry loses its power, and peace becomes your natural state.